And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the NRG series. You are tuning in right now in round number 4 of Team Action. We've got Standard, we've got Modern, we've got Legacy. So many cool formats, so many cool players, and battling out for, of course, a lot of cash. $10,000 on the line, as well as invites to the end of the year championships. And joining me today, well, I've got none other than Devin O'Donnell. I've got Mr. Doomwake. My name is Will Hall. But maybe you at home want to take part in some of these events. This isn't the only one that's happening this year. Lucky for you. And the end of the year is closing up, but we've got 2 more events for you. So let's have a little look what we've got coming up. Talk me through it, Doom.
So, September 14th and the 15th, we will be in Louisville. That's going to be a Saturday 10K Modern Showdown, followed up by a Sunday 5K Standard Trial. And then the next stop will be in Indianapolis. That'll be the first weekend of November. And that will be November 2nd. And then Saturday 10K Modern Showdown, followed by a Sunday 5K Pioneer Showdown. So if you guys are, itching to get to that paper magic and you want to potentially punch your ticket to the end of your championship, these are your next opportunities to do so.
And maybe you're like me and you're on the other side of the pond and you can't get to these events. Well, at least, well, maybe you could get to these events when you want to get to these events, but you have, something cocks up. Let's say you can't travel to these events. Lucky for you, you can watch them on this channel. So make sure you hit that follow button. But also on the socials as well. Make sure you follow NRGs to keep all up to date on everything that they've got going on, what events they've got coming up, what formats they're going to be. They do loads of live broadcasts throughout the week as well on another channel. So make sure you check it all out. Hit all those follow buttons so you don't miss a thing. And if you have a little cheeky sub, well, you get some cool emotes if you sub as well. Now back to the action, back to today's team trios. Let's get down to it. Let's see who we have got because we're starting off in the standard seat. What we got, Doom? Talk me through it.
So, the teams we have, you might recognize some of these names here. So, on the left, we have Will Kruger, Dom Harvey, and Ryan Oalagora. And on the right, we have Haviva, Goodman, Chris Smith, and Kyle Gonzalez. The matchup we are starting with is going to be Will on Demir midrange and Haviva on Golgari midrange. So we saw this a little bit earlier when we saw Caleb Durward play this matchup out. And I mean, it's a lot of the same stuff going on. We have the Demir deck, which is trying to play a little bit towards the battlefield early, cheap flyers like Spyglass Siren, Deep Cavern Bat, curve those into Gix. And the Golgari deck is all about stopping that from happening, using removal spells like Cut Down and Go for the Throat, and then pairing those into more expensive later game cards like the one difference that I will mention is Haviva's version is playing the Vraska plus Innkeeper's Talent combo, which is something that we did not see the previous version have from Frederick.
How much mana does it take to get that combo going?
A lot. So basically, you need to spend 2 mana on the talent. You have to level it up twice, which is 1 on the first level and 4 on the second level, and then 6 mana on the Vraska. So it is a huge mana investment. Now, that being said, the Golgari deck, or excuse me, the Demir deck rather, not the best at answering those types of permanents on the battlefield, enchantments and planeswalkers. So if, Haviva is able to buy enough time to get to that combo, then that is something that is going to be hard for Will to interact with. But as we see here, Will just kind of starting it off with, a couple creatures, Preacher, and a Spyglass Siren. And Haviva has drawn a card on turn 2 off of the Dread Knight. And that's going to be a main deck copy of Duress.
That's only one target. Go for the throat, but you also get the information of what's in the hand. Know that there is a bat. Know that there is a Tidebinder and a Shield Dread. No second black source yet. All 4 for land. But we do have Peacekeeper in the battlefield. And also, if you told me that Spyglass Siren was going to see play in anything but draft, I would have said, you're silly. Go away. Get back in your box. But it's really popping up in these decks, and it's really good in combination with, as you mentioned, the free drop Gix.
Gix. Yep. Yeah, that's kind of exactly why these decks show exactly why you see Spyglass Siren in these decks, because it's a cheap flyer. It's a way to kind of help to hit the land drops where, the map token, if you're missing lands, can help filter and find you additional lands. As you see here, I don't think Will drew a land for turn. So, wants to find that 4th land for Shieldred, now debating whether or not to cast the bat. And now, Haviva, if you're in Haviva's side of things, Will not casting the bat has to mean there was probably some sort of interaction drawn. If you take a look at Will's deck list and we look at instants that cost 2 mana, there are 4 Go for the Throat and 2 Phantom Interference. So very good chance that one of those was drawn, and we see that counterspell there.
Yeah, Phantom Interference, 1 mana. Then it's got like Spree, right? It's kind of like a kicker, but you got multiple ways you could kick it. Spree, pay the extra 1 means counter target spell unless its controller pays 2 mana. So maybe a little bit like could we could have played around that, right? Like if we played our 4th land drop first, we could have played around it. But then how important is that when we've already got one on an adventure? And here comes the Camonbats.
Yeah, and Viva's hand leftovers are pretty good here. There is a Vraska, a Glissa, a Shieldred, and an additional land here. And, Will does have the Tishana's Tidebinder, which can answer either the Vraska or the Shieldred, but is not going to be able to deploy that this turn. So I think if you're in Will's side of things, you might have to take the Vraska. Well, maybe that's not true. Maybe you just let Haviva use the Vraska for 1 turn, and then you can have the Tidebinder for the Vraska the following turn. It's kind of tough here from Will's side of things.
I'm looking at like what can I answer, and I feel like Shield, in my eyes, Shieldred's the taker because that can be cast next turn. The Veraska can as well, but it's not like the combo side of thing. And Veraska, maybe we can get that on the screen so everybody can have a look at all the extra modes. We spoke about the Splinter Twin combo on it, but it does have more modes. For 0 mana, you can draw a card and lose 1 life. -2, target creature becomes a treasure token, so it's basically a removal spell. And for 9, well, that's that ultimate, that Splinter Twin combo that you were speaking about.
Yeah, that's the -9, which says if target player has fewer than 9 poison counters, they get a number of poison counters equal to the difference. So most of the time they're going to have 0, so that will give them 9 poison counters. But Innkeeper's Talent will double that, giving them the full 18. That's kind of the Splitter Twin aspect of this deck. And looks like Haviva's going to go towards Glissa. Not want to commit that Vraska just yet. It's possible that she drew a 2-drop to cast here and maybe can just set up a double spell turn, Glissa plus 2-drop.
Oh
Maybe
yeah, that'd be
something like
great.
a Go for the Throat or ooh, Talon's
Ooh.
nice.
Okay, so Talent, talk me through this. One of the new cards. I opened this in draft and thought, oh my god, this card is amazing.
Oh
And
yeah.
then 2 weeks later, everyone's going on about this Splinter Twin combo, and I was like, oh great, I've got one of those. Talk me through all the 3 different modes on it.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, it is completely broken in draft, but not just good in draft. It's good in this format too. So the nice thing about Talon is when you cast it, you don't have to spend any additional mana to get the first level, the first level. So that is put a counter on something on every combat. So that is good in combination with your lifelink creatures like Deep Cavern Bat and things like that. But also, the second level means only 1 mana, gives all of your permanents with counters on them ward 1, which makes your opponent spend a little bit more mana if they want to kill your stuff. And then that third level, that's kind of the one that we've been discussing here. That's the Splinter Twin aspect, where it doubles everything that puts counters. So that means Planeswalkers enter the battlefield with double loyalty. And for those at home, those astute mathematicians out there, Liliana normally enters with 3. But if you have an Innkeeper's Talent leveled up, the Liliana of the Veil would enter with 6, which means you can immediately ultimate Liliana as well.
So Will's having a little read of it as well because we've got 5 mana. We can activate both modes here. Our board is pretty stable. We can threaten next turn this Varasa come down, meaning that Will has to hold up that extra 3 mana for the Tiebinder.
Yeah, and we might even see Haviva just use the. Okay, we're not going to go for the third level here. We're just going to get in with the creatures. Because I was going to say, maybe you could say, you could go to the third level and then set up the Vraska for next turn. The issue with setting up Vraska next turn is, again, as you mentioned, Will does have the Tidebinder. So it's a situation where even if Haviva can resolve the Vraska, doesn't want to ult it immediately in the face of that Tidebinder.
Will's thinking about it. Like Will's got back against the wall here. Can't leave up this 3 mana forever, but if we kind of have to, because otherwise we could just lose next turn. He's going to fire it off here.
Yeah, it's interesting because so Aviva did not want to spend 4 mana on the talent into the Tidebinder because that's just, effectively her getting time walked for 4 mana. I would imagine, I think Will is Tidebindering the Glissa trigger, but that does open up the window for Haviva to level up the talent again, and now we have talent on 3 with Vraska in hand, and now she knows as far as what she can
We
see,
drew
the
deep
coast
cabin
is clear.
bats.
Okay,
So
so that'll
bats
take
can
the
take the
Vraska.
Vraska. And then, of course, if it reveals 2 Vraskas here, it's just straight up cry. Or if the top deck is going to be good here for Haviva on the right bar screen. Well, did find that the second black source needed, but it was a tapped one in Darkslick Shores.
I
So
think
we
there's
went
an
able
Urtai as well.
tie.
Urtai resurrected. So I think Will's thought last turn was he
Oh,
knew he had the Urtai last turn. So in his head, he can Tidebinder the Glissa to kind of turn it off for a little bit, and then have the Urtai next turn to set up the counterspell on the Vraska. But now giving it a little bit of pause, drawing that Deep Cavern Bat. Now, as you mentioned, the worst case scenario for Will would be if you cast Deep Cavern Bat and Haviva shows a second copy of Vraska, and that's kind of a disaster. It was a basic.
oh,
Okay,
we're
so I think Will's
racing.
hand is just Urtai Shieldred.
But then, are we not dead on the backswing? Because we hit 2 counters, they get doubled. That's a trampling creature. No, Will's at 7.
Will can chump block the Glissa with the Bat. So even if Haviva puts counters on the Dread Knight, it would
One,
be
two,
6
three,
power,
4.
and then
Yeah, but
yeah,
then you get Shield Dread and just play your own Shield Dread.
that's a good point too. But then Will could Urtai the Shieldred. Interesting. So I think Haviva's trying to. What also I can't tell. Is there a cottage? I think Haviva might have a cottage as well. So if
Uh,
that's the case, Haviva could maybe also go towards cottage. But then if you go towards cottage, Will can Urtai the cottage to blow that up. This is interesting.
I
And I guess Haviva at 5, there's a chance that Will can maybe race this.
I think that's what Will kind of denoted that well in his mind. He's like, "Oh, I've got the disruption spell here. It's a 3/2. This bat, like this is clearly the key turn, depending on how the sequence is for both players and who's gonna pull the trigger first. Because currently, I'm still pretty sure we've got the lethal. It puts a counter on it and then doubles the counters. Is that correct, or does it put double the amount of counters that would be added straight away onto it?
No, it just puts double the amount of counters. So essentially, if Haviva goes to combat with the talent, that'll put 2 more counters onto the Dread Knight.
Which would make it 6 power. No, so if the Vraska came down this turn and didn't, there was no disruption for it. Yes, it would be lethal, but she's playing
Yeah, we
around
know
it,
that. Yeah, and we know that Will has an Urtai. There's one unknown card in hand for Will, and it is an Urtai Resurrected, which would be able to counter the Vraska. Now, obviously, Haviva doesn't know that, but I think she's weighing the decision of is it worth what's the worst case scenario if Will does have a way to stop the Vraska, and I think that's exactly what she's thinking about. And she's going to go towards firing up the cottage because if you remember a couple of turns ago, there was that one turn where Will had the option to tap out, but chose to not play the Deep Cavern Bat to hold up a piece of interaction. And Haviva might be thinking, okay, well, if that's there's a lot of things to think about here.
well, it's the
But
same now, right? There's got to be a reason Will is not playing a Shield Dread. Like
yes, yeah, that
literally
too.
has to be a reason. We know
Well,
about.
the thing is, so not necessarily because Will could just be posturing, right? Will knows about the Vraska, and Will could be saying, okay, if I tap out for Shieldred, she's obviously going to go for Vraska and
Okay,
kill me. And it might be a situation where even if Will has nothing, he has to make Haviva think that he has something because otherwise he's just dead on board to the known Vraska in hand. So now, as it turns out, Will did have something. And I think this might actually be Will stealing this game because Haviva at 5, the Urtai is going to kill a creature. And then you can chump block the cottage or the Glissa with the bat, take 4, go to 3, and then you have 8 power in play.
yeah, I think you're right. We've played the land drop for the turn as well. Will rip the card that was needed? That's a one of in the deck, right? One of in the
Yeah,
main.
I
Oh no,
mean,
two,
I
two. He's got 2.
I think it could have also been just a generic removal spell, assuming that Haviva did go for this line. But yeah, that's going to be Will taking this game down. I did not think that was going to happen.
No, that was cool. But we get started. We weren't allowed to do the split twin combo, but it is what it is. It's fine. It's best of 3, so we can scroll down to. Looks like the legacy game is just gone to sideboard as well. Is that just got updated? So maybe we can have a little look in and how Dom's getting on Bant Nardu versus Jessica Control, which is meant to have a good matchup against it. I say good matchup, a better matchup than some of the other decks because it has access to Wrath of the Skies.
Yeah, as good as it gets. You never, nothing has a positive matchup against
No.
Nadu, but this is probably the deck that maybe has the best shot because, like you said, the Wrath of the Skies and Solitudes and Phlages and all that stuff. So Chris is looks like this game is not a lot going on. There's a construct token on Dom's side. We see a counterspell take care of a spring card did to go. And I see a lot of cards in Chris's graveyard. So this game might have been There's only 3 lands in play for Chris,
I was
though,
about to
so
say,
a little mana light.
that seems to be the only issue here. If we can hit another land, that Flage in the graveyard might come back and might be a great spot for it. Looks like Dom's got Summoner's Pact and 2 lands in hand. Summoner's Pact is going to get cast here. Go find herself a Nadu. No shock there. Play a land drop. Play the Nadu. Subtlety, ditching blue card is going to target it. Because if that last card in hand is a Shuko, we can just try and go off this turn. But no, we're going to put it on top. Remember, the pact is active, so that we do have to pay 4 mana in our upkeep. I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it out loud until the end of time. I hate that they changed that. It looks like we've got more land, by the way. There's land at the top that was off camera.
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell. I thought that was like exiled or part of the
Yeah,
graveyard. Okay.
that's how it looks to me as well. Yeah,
I was confused.
I really am not a fan that you can miss those pack triggers now. You can't miss those pack triggers. Like, Flage in the graveyard off the Seville. Big hit.
Bad. Looks like a Mysticate the pickup, and the hand for Chris, I believe, was Teferi Counterspell Subtlety. Those are pretty good leftovers, and we have Arena with the Flage. So you could even haste the Flage, kill the Construct, attack, kill the Haywire Might, and hold up Counterspell and Subtlety. You got to imagine this is a really good spot here for Chris.
Look, chat's happy. They're seeing Nadu not doing Nadu things come across. I think we're just going face with it.
Going upstairs. Actually, kind of like it. I mean, Dom at 18, you're going to deal him 12 damage here, put him to 6. And then 6 is kind of interesting because 6 means that the second Flage would be lethal even with a blocker, because you would just go ETB upstairs, attack upstairs. And Dom is on the hook for paying 4 for Pact. So, presumably Dom pays 4 mana, draws the Nadu, and there might not be a way for Dom to get out of this.
Did the 4 cards get exiled from the graveyard?
I don't know that they did. Yeah, I don't know if it matters because Chris has enough, plenty of cards in the graveyard, and that game was going to be over anyways. But yeah, I don't think Chris exiled the cards in the graveyard, or at least we couldn't see it.
All right, let's get down. Let's have a little look at Legacy, how they're getting on, if they're just starting their matchup or not. Nope, they're still having a little look. What about Standard? I'm making production work for the money today, you see.
We get a switch. This is where we need picture-in-picture on the, you know what I mean, like on the live feed. Just have like all 3 games, like one screen that shows all 3 games. That'd be kind of cool.
No, nothing's working. Okay, that's cool. That's fine. Well, maybe while we've got a little bit of time, we can talk about what's the next. Oh no, I know what we can do. I googled facts.
Ooh, Madison facts.
Okay, what fact do I want to throw at you? Okay, so we're in Madison. My phone just heard me about, so it's shut phone. Okay. What was the good one? If you catch a foul ball at Mallard's game, I'm guessing that's baseball. Don't know. It's not a sport in the UK. You'll get a free hot dog. That's pretty cool.
Costco hot dog.
I'd like if I was at a football game and I caught a ball and I got a free hot dog, I wouldn't be too happy about it. Manson is named after the 4th president.
Okay, that tracks.
What other sort of facts? I didn't say these were good facts, but it's the first that came up.
They're facts.
There's a starfish fossil on a staircase in the Capitol building.
Did not know
that. I'm killing time, chat. This is what this is called. It's all good.
We were talking about Pokemon earlier. We could keep talking about Pokemon, I guess.
Yeah, I really should have looked through more of these facts before I should have vetted them. I'm sorry, chat. They weren't that great. It wasn't that great. But we're off to a flying start here. Though. Legacy. A bit of legacy. Let's go. Ponder. Turn 1, Ponder.
So the 4-color Beans deck from the hands of Kyle Gonzalez to up a game over the this is the Menace, right? We actually haven't seen this on camera. We've seen a lot of blue-black decks in Legacy, but they've been tempo decks: Nethergoyf, Psychic Frog, Channeler, Tambio. This is the Boogeyman. This is, if I take a look at the deck list, for Ryan, let me pull this up real quick. Grief, Psychic Frog, Troll, Archon of Cruelty, Atraxa, and then Entomb, Reanimate, Ponder, Force of Will, Brainstorm, Daze. So this is what everybody's talking about.
Yeah, this is the deck that in less than 24 hours might not have all its access to all its cards that it's got. I see a carpet of flowers there for Carlo when they've been decided not to deploy it. Just holding up that 1 mana. I think it's a 1 lander and with a Lorien's Revealed. Comes the second Underground Seas, 2 mana. Psychic Frog.
There is the frog. And I think what's so good about this Dimir Scaminator deck is it has the ability to play a very fast reanimate. Like it has, excuse me, 4 copies of reanimate, 4 entombs, and a bunch of, just like cantrips to find those. So you can reanimate very, very quickly. But then it also has a very good backup plan, right? You have grief plus reanimate, you have psychic frog, troll plus reanimate is something that these players go towards a lot of the time. So it just kind of has the best of everything, where the best cheap threats, the best interaction, the best, hand disruption, and just, again, just everything.
Can I decipher any information by the sequence of these jewels that I'm fetching? Does it give me any information of what's in the hand?
Maybe ley line binding, but I mean, Kyle would kind of want to fetch 4 types anyways. There is some consideration where, if Kyle is fetching out 4 colors aggressively, maybe that signifies he has binding. Heads up play here from Kyle decides to go for carpet. Second main phase is going to make 2 blue mana, use the plateau for plow, and that's going to play around days, which does make a lot of sense here for Kyle.
Man, Carpet Flowers is such a cool card. As a saga, I think was the first print of it. Love it. Frog was drawn for the turn.
Yeah, and now with Kyle tapped out, I mean, does have access to, I don't know if it's in hand, Force of Will in the deck list, but for Ryan, it looks like a Bowmaster, a Frog, a Brazen Borrower, a Wasteland, and then a couple of black cards I can't quite make out. So could go towards a second Frog plus a Wasteland, could maybe just Wasteland hold a Borrower. Not exactly sure what you would want to borrow here, but yeah, looks like we're going to go for the Frog, and that makes sense because, you just want to make sure get a little bit of a threat in play.
There's endurance in hand here for Kyle. Saw that. Leyline Binding
Ooh.
was to pick up.
Yeah, I think Kyle's hand's pretty good. Endurance, Uro, Dress Down, Binding, Wasteland, Plains. Now, the question here for Kyle is, do you want to Wasteland? I think what Kyle might want to do is go to second main first, Carpet to get 2 mana, use the 2 mana in the Plateau, cast the Uro, and then Uro put a land into play, then play the Wasteland, and then Wasteland, Ryan.
We can't do that, right? We need a green and blue mana, and we don't have access to any of that.
Does Carpet only make 1 color? I thought you could split the colors.
No, I think it's one color of a choice.
Oh, it is 1 color. Okay, I don't know why I thought you could split the colors. Never mind.
But it looks like that's what we're going to do. We're going to choose green. And we're going to hard cast this endurance with Wasteland on the battlefield, and we're going to endurance ourselves. Get these cards back in our deck. Shuffle them to the bottom, then Wasteland after. Okay,
Interesting.
I don't hate it, but now we've got a blocker for this frog.
Yeah, I'm curious as to why we enduranced ourselves. With the Uro in hand, I was wondering, I feel like maybe you want to have a bit of a stocked graveyard to be able to set up the Uro eventually, but maybe, just not want to play towards that. Now, the I guess if you're in Ryan's seat, do you just kind of shove all in on the frog? I mean, maybe, but then potentially you're worried about something like a solitude. So you have to be a little bit careful about that.
I'd also be worried there's just a path. Like, how many cards am I willing to commit into this frog when it can just get answered for 1 mana next turn? We're going to start off with...
What is that? All right, well, we're drawing 3 cards, so I'm assuming it's Brainstorm. I don't even know where that's from. I'm sure Chad will tell us.
Yeah,
I've never seen that before.
What is that from?
It's got to be some kind of, maybe it's a secret lair.
Might be a secret lair. I was thinking maybe it was an Eternal Weekend card or something like that, but secret lair, Mark Paul, chat saying.
Okay. Yeah, I also I saw somebody in chat point out that maybe the endurance to shuffle the graveyard back in from Kyle is because the land that was the tropical island that was wastelanded, maybe you wanted to shuffle that back in and have the opportunity to fetch it out again.
There is 2 of them in the list.
Yeah.
So, we did have a second one if needs be, but we are struggling with our mana currently. But this Carpet of Flowers is doing a work, generating 1 extra mana. It's going to be blue. So we're going to cast this Dress Down to get a card deeper. Play Plains as our land for the turn and just pass the turn back. This endurance is going to do a good job currently of stopping the frog from connecting. Might be an end step end of Entomb here.
Yeah, the mana is not really shaking out here for Kyle. We saw Ryan with that key wasteland on the tropical island. And one thing you mentioned earlier where Kyle had, Kyle's fetches, right? Kyle fetched out a plateau. I believe that was off of a fetch land. And then used the Lorien reveal to find a tropical island, and now is a little bit choked on blue mana. I saw a copy of Ponder in Kyle's hand that we can't cast currently. The basic planes also not doing Kyle a lot of favors here.
What is that card? There's two copies of a black card. It might be the
I think it's Reanimate.
I think it might be Reanimate.
That card's been reprinted a lot of times, and I think it might be one of the Double Masters or Eternal Masters, some version of Reanimate, I think.
I used the 40k ones in my deck.
Those ones are nice.
They are nice. I'm a big 40k fan. You into 40k?
Never played, but I've heard some good things. It looks fun.
I don't really play. I just build models. Like that is literally what I do. I don't do much. I just build them and give them to my friend to play with. Looks like we're going to grief though, ditching one of these black cards.
Okay, that's not Reanimate. And maybe is it Reanimate? I have no idea.
It's
Chat'll
apparently
tell
the
us.
Commander Collection Black Reanimate.
Ryan's got some spicy versions. Okay, I am being. It looks like Chad is confirming Commander Collection Black Reanimate. Interesting. I've
What do you
never
take
seen that
here?
version. Presuming if you're gonna cast Reanimate, probably the Leyline Binding to make sense, because then you're just gonna reanimate the Atraxa and hope that it goes the distance. Now, this would be an interesting spot where if Kyle had the ability to cast the Dress Down, could Dress Down in response to Reanimate, but given that that is not an option, that Atraxa is going to hit the battlefield, and Ryan's gonna get look at a bunch of cards here.
Top 10 cards, one of each card type goes to the grip. I see sorceries, I see creatures, I see lands, I see instances. So at least
I was
four
gonna
card
say,
types.
I was gonna say no interaction, but did pick up a Daze. Now, I guess Daze not super great here because Kyle has the Carpet of Flowers, so that is a good way to play around Daze anyways. So Ryan might go towards, you already have a Frog, so getting the Harbinger makes sense, and then just take it in 2-mana Reanimate, maybe. Okay, we're gonna go for the Daze.
Yeah, I don't hate this. This is good enough for me.
Now the question is, has Ryan played a land this turn? I don't think he has.
I'm also thinking, is Harbinger even good here? Is Frog just better? There's a basic on the other side and a Carpet of Flowers.
It's a good point. Harbinger doesn't line up super duper well against Carpet, because then if Kyle wants to cast the Uro, you can use the Carpet to make green, and then the Plateau would produce blue. And you might even get to a spot where Kyle, if Kyle just draws a bunch more lands, can even get to a spot where he goes, use the Carpet for green with a second, second non-basic in play, and that would also, escape the Uro too.
I think we've got an Entomb Reanimate again here. So yeah, it's going to be Reanimate this time. It's going to be Archon of Cruelty. The powerful 6/6. We see a lot of this card. Normally, we don't see it too much in Modern, right? Because Goyos is the Reanimate card of choice, and this isn't a legendary. But Reanimate, just straight up any card or any creature.
Yeah, and this is where the blue-black scam deck just really looks it just looks insane, right? Where you get the Atraxa finds you the second Reanimate and the second Entomb, and then that basically finds you another creature in the form of Archon of Cruelty. So yeah, we can definitely see why this. Oh yeah, the Secta Endurance too. We can definitely see why a lot of people want action taken against this deck, huh?
Terminate top deck. Let's go. Terminus.
Yeah, is Terminus good enough? I mean, there's still some leftovers here for Ryan. You definitely need Terminus. I agree.
Well,
It's like a volcanic. That's blue mana.
I think it was a Dress Down. There's the land we've been looking for all game. I'm going to shuffle them back. Do we need something like a brainstorm to brainstorm into Terminus at instant speed? Is that maybe the line?
Yeah, if Kyle drew Volcanic, you could do that, right? So you play the Volcanic, brainstorm on Ryan's turn, spike the Terminus. Past that, I mean, if you draw a single, I guess if you draw, okay, picked up Leyline Binding, which could maybe be good enough.
It's path, isn't it? Oh, it is Leyline Binding, you're right.
So Binding can maybe take care of the Archon of Cruelty, rather, excuse me. Take a hit from the Atraxa and then try to just find an answer to that next turn.
7, 8.
Still has the Dress Down left over too.
We can't make Frog big enough just yet. Orcish Bowmaster in hand as well.
How many cards are in hand for Ryan? I think it's 5, right?
I think it's 5, yeah. We need 7 to be able to ditch and win this turn.
7, 8. Yeah, that'd be 13. Okay, so Ryan's going to pick up a Delta, cast another Brainstorm. Yeah, I mean, Ryan really just looking for Force of Will, and that's what he found. So,
pit 2 back. It looks like it's going to be 2 lands. Fetch land on top because sequencing them's right. We've also got fetch land so we can shuffle them away.
Yeah, chat was bringing up a point. The binding cost 2, but there was a mana floating from the Carpet of Flowers.
So here's Dress Down. Top card. Didn't
see
get
what
a
it
great
was.
look.
Like a Beanstalk?
Well, we're still playing by the looks of it.
It was not a Terminus.
It's a bean. We do have a
And
Ponder.
okay, so I believe there is a green mana floating from the carpet, right? Because Ryan had 3 Underground Seas, and we used 2 of the green to play the Beanstalk. So as of right now, 1 green floating. What are we trying to ponder into?
It doesn't do anything here. That's a land that we drew. Ponder is in the graveyard. We're going to fetch.
So with 1 green floating, yeah, I was going to say maybe you can get to Uro, but not with Plateau Basic Plains. Probably can't quite do that.
So what's the last card in hand?
I am not quite sure. Looks like Kyle's tapping some mana.
Brainstorm.
And what do we find?
We
found nothing.
We found nothing. We're going to scoop it up, get to game 3 here. But that means we can go back to standard. I'm thinking, are we meant to use that Brainstorm in the upkeep? Because then if we do blind flip a Terminus, we've actually got arguably the card we're digging towards.
Maybe, yeah. I'm not sure how Kyle sideboarded in these matchups, but maybe it's possible he cut the Terminuses. I would imagine they stayed in, but yeah, that might have been one of Kyle's only outs. As we get to game number 2 in our standard seed, we see a lot of what we saw in the last game. This Innkeeper's Talent getting to the 2nd level, and looks like that's going to put some counters on Bat. And as we go into this game, it looks like Will has a Tidebinder and a Shieldred with an active Aclazotz. That card is really good in these kind of mid-range mirrors.
Back God. Just having a big 4/4 in general, but then giving it lifelink and all the extra stuff that goes along with it. This is looking into Legacy. They're still sideboarding. We'll see if we can jump back to that standard game, though.
We do love sideboarding. All right, what do we got here? So talent, I think fully leveled. So we're going to go 2 counters on the Dread Knight. I like that, so that can attack past the Preacher. And we got ourselves a bit of a race going on here. Ooh.
We're going to just snap block this Mastermind. So we do get the card that is underneath it. Which
it's an Urtai, right?
Yeah, but I think there's an Urtai underneath it.
Yep, so Mastermind trade for Bat. And, you saw Haviva had the option to put the counters on the Bat to prevent this from happening. Maybe, wasn't considering the option of Fairy Mastermind. But yeah, this is kind of a blowout because the Dread Knight's going to get traded for the Preacher, and then the Bat's going to die, giving Will back the Urtai, and Haviva does not have a lot left going on. Got a talent. Now, that being said, does have Vraska's in the deck, can draw that, but Will has 2 very good answers to Vraska in the form of Tidebinder and Urtai. And Vivon, no cards in hand. This one's looking pretty tough.
I'm not an expert at this. Ooh. Oh, hold on. Does that give us an out?
Vraska at the top?
Oh, no, we did have an out there.
You know what? Actually, it doesn't, because so if you cast Vraska for 5 mana, it enters with 2 less loyalty, right? So Vraska normally enters with 6. If you cast it for 5, it would enter with 4, doubled to 8, but the ultimate is 9.
Well, there's the land, but yeah, Will's holding these 2 up till the end of time, and that's going to be game scooping it up. So let's head back to Legacy. So that's one for Will Cougar's team there. I'm
being told that I'm wrong.
Wrong?
Oh, you can double then -2. I didn't know that. Okay.
Chat is so big brain all the time.
Really?
I don't know. I'm taking it all for granted, whatever you're saying, but
I don't know how the rules work, man.
We're not judges, we're commentators. The idea that our job is to get a reaction out of you, chat, and we did it. It's all good. I want to go back to my point. I think Deep Cavern Bats might be a trap in a removal heavy game. It just falls like a house of dominoes. Yeah, it gives you that early tempo, but every game we've seen it cast so far today, it's always come to the point where if I rip the kill spell, the rest of it just collapses. Now I get my spell back, which generates another spell. Which you know, what I mean, it seems great on paper. Maybe in some matchups it's amazing, but it looks like it wasn't great in every time we've seen it cast so far.
Yeah, there's definitely some situations where, like you mentioned, you bat an early removal spell, and that's kind of what you want to do with bat. You want to take the removal spell so they can't kill your bat. But then you find yourself at these spots where if you have a bat or two in play that are both taking removal spells, and your opponent just kind of top decks, like that one game we saw, which was Frederick against Caleb. Frederick drew that virtue. Virtue killed the bat. That got another virtue. Virtue killed the bat. That got back threat. And the battlefield went from Caleb having 4 creatures to Frederick's none. And Frederick had a bunch of stuff, and Caleb was kind of too hard to come back from. So yeah, I kind of agree with you that in this format, like especially if people are keeping in cut down in the mid-range mirrors, cut down is a card that is fantastic against bad, especially when you draw later on.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's cool. Like, what I mean, it's an interesting discussion to have, and maybe test out. You play a lot of standard. Maybe you can test that out moving forward. But more importantly, we've got a grief on the stack. We haven't even played a land yet. Well, I think we did actually. There's a days in the graveyard, so it looks like we did play a land. And then we're going to reanimate the grief, double grief. This is where the scam element came from.
Yeah, so you might be used to Scam in Modern, which is Grief plus Not Dead after all. Very similar effect, but it turns out that Reanimate has a lot more uses than Not Dead after all, so it's a much more powerful card. And it's going to shred Kyle's hand, and Kyle's going to be left with some lands and a Terminus, so not exactly where you want to be. He needs to find a Brainstorm.
There's a Flage.
Let's find a Flage. That can maybe take care of the Grief.
Looking at the top card, do we like it? Yes, we do. It's going to stay there. Pass the turn back. There's the second land. I don't know. Oh, we did have a second land anyway, but that's an untapped second land if you want it. First, we'll start off by getting some points of damage in. Surveil trigger. We like that. So that will stay on top.
Yeah, and it's also interesting. So if Kyle, oh wait, was it a Flage? No, I think it was a Xander's Lounge.
No, it's not. It's a lounge.
Yeah, it kind of looked like a Flage, but so the hand right now is you're picking up Yorion. Looks like it's Terminus, Veil of Summer, Yorion. Okay. Could hard cast the Terminus next turn with the Carpet of Flowers.
Is that even good?
It gets the grief off the battlefield.
Gets it out of the graveyard as well, so it can't be reanimated, I guess.
Yeah. Ideally, you'd like to save the Terminus, but it's a situation where Ryan knows about the Terminus, so he's unlikely to play into it unless he has an answer, which, to be fair, Ryan does have Force of Will in hand, so, does have the ability to fight over something like Terminus. And, you can imagine if Kyle slams the Terminus next turn, does Ryan even care about that? I'm not sure that he does.
Like, so counter that, even if we did do it, we've got access to Mystic Sanctuary in our deck, so we can set up for a second Terminus later on if all we need is a blue fetch. So it's why I love it. I love these small little details moving forward. Play a land. We've got a frog in hand. We've got a reanimate in hand, and I think it's 2 blue cards. Didn't make out what they were, but that's a path for turn.
Yeah, the Sanctuary is a really good call out too, because Kyle does have the 3 islands in play: the Tundra, the Lounge, and the Meticulous Archive. So if you go for a Terminus, you can fight over it, and we're just gonna go for Uro. Yeah, get it in there.
I like it.
And if you're Ryan, you kind of have to Force of Will this.
Well, no, because we know about the Veil.
But the Veil of Summer, and Ryan knows about the Veil, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's a rough situation. So we drew an extra card. We gain an extra 3 life. We can play another land if we've got one, but we don't, which in itself is bad for Ryan. It's like, oh no, that means that's all spells going on in the hand. I do love me casting some Uros in Legacy. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, and if you're in Ryan's seat, I mean, with the Reanimate in hand, you do have some good top decks. You can find Entomb. You can maybe surveil a large creature into the graveyard. So Ryan does still have some ways out of this, but Uro does not give you a ton of time. That thing hits for a large chunk of damage. And
right.
This game was really all about the fact that the Veil of Summer was face up is, that's a huge part of this game.
I was about to say, this Surveil trigger, we could Surveil flip it. Don't tell me Uro's getting whiteboarded treatment now.
Oh, come on. Why do we have to see the whiteboarded one? Oh, no.
instantly trigger us, trigger
You know that
Twitch
Norm
chat.
did that on purpose too.
Oh yeah.
Well, the good news for Ryan fans is he did top and entomb there. Now, we know, so this is going to get interesting because Ryan can go for entomb, Archon of Cruelty plus reanimate. But remember, both players know about the Veil of Summer, and the Veil of Summer can stop the Archon trigger because it is a target. So if Ryan goes for Archon, Kyle will likely Veil to save the Uro, and then Kyle can go untap, get, have the
Ooh.
Leyline Binding. So aware of that information, Ryan's just going to go for Atrax, and I like this a lot.
Yeah, I like this. Hopefully, there's no endurance has been drawn on the other side, because that would be a huge blowout here.
Yeah, and I think you're in a position if you're on Ryan's side of things, you can't really afford to play around much because the Uro's just not going to give you that much time, and it's also going to draw Kyle more cards. So the longer you wait, the worse it gets for you. So I think it makes sense to just jam here. But yeah, like you said, and we know that Force of Will is no good because of that Veil of Summer on the side of Ryan.
So top 10 cards, one of each card type is going to go to the hand. That's a lot of land to start with, but we do see the Archon. What's the average you normally draw from an Atraxa in this deck?
I'd probably say 4 or 5. I mean, if you look at the types, let me look at the types for Ryan's deck list. There are creature, enchantment, sorcery, instant, land. There's only 3 enchantments, right? So there's 3 animate dead, 8 sorceries. Like I would say almost 100% of the time you're going to hit creature, land, instant, and then sometimes you'll hit a sorcery. Rarely you'll hit an enchantment.
Now, what are we actually looking for as well? That's the other interesting thing. Like with this board state, with what we know that's in hand, there's a couple of unknowns. We know about the Terminus, we know about the Veil. We don't know about the Leyland's Binding. And I can't make out what the last card was.
I kind of like this Brazen Borrower a lot because if you take the Borrower, like sure you know about the Veil of Summer, but the Borrower will start the fight. So basically, you would Borrower the Uro, Kyle would Veil, and then you could force the Veil of Summer. But it looks like Ryan choosing to go for the Bowmaster instead. That is kind of interesting.
Okay, so these are face ups. These are known cards. It does take us up to 7 cards in the grip.
The Wasteland cannot cut Kyle off of white mana because there's a Tundra and a Meticulous, but you can cut Kyle off of red. Never mind, there's 2 reds. So I guess you can only cut Kyle off of green, which looks like Ryan is going to do.
I'm guessing we're floating a green in response.
Yeah, but then I mean Ryan could just like move to second main phase, or I guess we're in the second main phase maybe.
Yeah, I think we're in the second main, right?
Ponder is going to see a couple lands and a Bowmaster. Interesting if Ryan wants to keep those. Maybe Ryan is thinking about keeping the Bowmasters because they sort of mitigate the Uro to an extent where Uro draws a card, you get the trigger off the Bowmaster. Maybe that's something that's in the back of Ryan's mind.
So Beseiju is going to be our land drop for the turn. Here comes the Leyland's Binding. Force of Will is going to target that. Veil couldn't get cast quicker if it tried.
Yeah, we have a second
force. Looks like by the time everything's said and done, it's all going to resolve and it's going to be going the direction of Ryan.
Yep. So Ryan does win that fight, and Kyle's leftovers we know about the Terminus. I don't know what the last card is.
It's an oil slick card. It's in the description. I can't have a look at the deck list.
Hold on,
I'm possibly could be.
Okay, never mind. We use the carpet man. Okay, I was confused. So attack with the Uro, gonna met with a block from the Atraxa, and then the Uro's just gonna hit the graveyard. So yeah, this is a precarious position here for Kyle. Ryan's gonna get in for 7. And I think Kyle is at the point where we kind of have to fire off the Terminus on just the Atraxa, unless you draw a Swords to Plowshares or a Binding, but we'll see exactly what the draw step is. Yep. So
Terminus.
And it's costing 3 because the carpet is making 3 mana off of Ryan's lands.
What is that last card? It's driving me mental. I can't work out what it is.
Tell. Yeah, I can't tell.
Yeah.
I think this was the plan too. So remember Ryan's decision to take the Bowmaster over the Borrower. And I
Hmm.
think because Ryan knew about the Terminus, he wanted this as the leftover threat. Like he knew that Ryan knew that Kyle was going to be in a position where he had to Terminus eventually. So in Ryan's position, I think that the Bowmaster was potentially a better post Terminus threat than the Borrower.
Things we know that Ura is going to come back after next turn. We've got the mana for it plus the carpet, so it's going to be pretty relevant that it's going to come back as long as we've got enough cards in the graveyard, which I believe we do with this wasteland. Land drawn for turn. I think there's a plateau. It's still driving mental that I don't know what that last card is, but here we go. We're going to wasteland, and it's going to be we're going to wasteland the fetch. So this is cool, right? Wasteland is forcing the fetch, so a blue source, so to speak, could get fetched up, which means the carpet of flowers is going to generate a bit more value. But realizing that
Ryan's like,
Ryan
you know
goes and
what?
gets the
I'll get the
swamp.
swamp. Yeah, no value for you. But yeah, you could, like you said, if Kyle goes to Wasteland, one of the blue sources, that's less mana for carpet because then Ryan can also just fetch a swamp, and that would be less mana generation from the carpet. But Uro is going to come back now. Uro good, but it is going to trigger both Bowmasters now, so that's going to mean 1 damage here. It's going to trigger the Orc Army, and then 2 more tokens. That means we're going to have a 4/4, and
Guess what
don't
we
want to
drew?
cast that Brainstorm.
I was going to say that brainstorm right now not so good.
Yeah, don't want to cast that one.
So we've got a little bit of a stalemate at the minute. These Bowmasters plus the Orcamaster token versus the 6/6 Titan. Just forced to pass the turn back. Land drawn for turn.
And Kyle, I don't think can really attack here because if you attack, you're giving 2 more counters on the Arby token. The 6/6 Arby just trades for the Uro, and you don't have enough cards in your graveyard. So yeah, I think you just
Oh,
kind of
it,
got to chill for a little bit.
it was the companion.
Oh, is it the Orion the whole time?
Yeah, we knew about the lawyer. That's what we're so stupid. We're so stupid.
Yes, I agree.
But nothing to really target is the problem, right? We are just playing it as a
The
4/5
Orion? Oh, it's a
flyer.
4/5. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if Ryan's at 22. You got to get the job done. You can't attack with the Uro, so this weird, like both players just kind of staring at each other. Neither player can really attack. Yeah, chat brings up a good point. So there is Mystic Sanctuary. There's nothing in the graveyard though, right? Because we
Yeah,
exiled
we
everything.
exiled the Terminus.
Yeah.
So we can just go for the Surveil land, see if we can pick a card in the graveyard that we might want to hit the longer it goes.
What do we got? Ooh, we're thinking about keeping it. That's not
Oh,
a
we
good sign
kept
for
it.
Ryan. Let's see
So,
what it was.
making us all suspense. It is a
That makes
Swords of
sense.
Plowshare. So that's going to get rid of one of these. Now, does this make attacking more favorable for us?
I mean, no, because it's sort of the same thing where the Uro attacks, the Bowmaster trigger deals 1 to the Uro, and then makes a 5/5 Orc Army, and then the 5/5 could trade with the 6/6 that has 1 damage on it. So, still not really any good attacks.
That was a really quick pick up there. Kyle was moving at lightning pace here. I think it was a white card drawn, maybe a prismatic ending. Don't hold me to that.
That was a ponder. I saw that one.
Getting there for another 4 points damage. Frog drawn for turn. That's a good 2-drop.
Yeah, this is such a fascinating game where this like Uro versus Bowmaster standoff. Yeah, neither player really wants to get into combat with either of them, and Kyle just keeps drawing a bunch of cantrips. Yeah, he's motioning to cast the ponder, but is not sure he wants to. Excuse me, not sure he wants to in the face of that Bowmaster. Now it's only going to be 1 trigger, so you figured you're basically paying a life and giving 1+1/+1 counter onto the army. What do we find?
There's Terminus. Terminus Carpet of Flowers fetch land. Keep them all on
See,
top.
is Terminus actually good?
Well, it
Because
means you
you're
can
kind
attack,
of
right?
yeah, I was thinking you're kind of just winning the race. Well, I mean, if you Terminus, then there's no attacks because there's no creatures, right?
Well, no, you can attack first. Is what I'm saying. You can attack, and then you can do.
Oh,
But
sure.
you can do like a brainstorm shenanigans with it.
You could even maybe attack with the Uro, and if Ryan trades with the Arby token, then the Uro goes to the graveyard. Then you can Terminus, and then that means the Uro will stay in the graveyard. So that could be something that Kyle's thinking about.
So that was in my mind. If I get the Uro in my graveyard, which arguably is my best card right now, but we're gonna give this frog flying. We can block it. Yep, we're gonna snap that off. Discard some cards. Here comes an Atraxa. There's
Yeah,
an
and
Archon.
This is kind of exactly what Kyle wants, right? Because if we're setting up the line of Uro attack, trade for the army token, and then Terminus, Kyle will have no creatures in play. The Uro's going to go to the graveyard, or excuse me, the Yorion's going to go to the graveyard, then the Uro will. And now, okay.
Slap.
Oh, we put it back on top. Because I was going to say maybe there was a situation where Kyle kept the Terminus in hand, attacked with the Uro, traded for it, and then
Ooh.
paid 6 mana for Terminus. But Ground Seal off the top here, that's going to mean that, normally Reanimate would have been a good draw, but not quite anymore.
Maybe we can see get that up on the screen for everybody. This isn't a card you see every day. This
No.
ground seal, but pop it up in these 4 color lists in the main. That's how much of a menace that these reanimate decks are at the minute. We have the main deck cards like this: a 2 mana enchantment when it enters, draw a card. But cards in graveyards can't be the targets of spells or abilities. Grief is what we found on the other side, though. So hard casting that. Get to have a little look.
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, it at least cantrips, right? In the matchups where it doesn't do much, it's 2 mana, replaces itself, draws a card. So at the end of the day, it's not the worst. And Kyle's going to brainstorm in response to the grief. Probably wants to hide something good.
No, we'll just
Or
play a
just
dress down.
down. That works too.
That's going to stifle the ability here, so no Thoughtseize effect. End of turn, we're going to then swords. Okay, we're rocking and rolling. We just need to find a threat. We can get another Uro, that'd be great. Draw for turns, another carpet. Oh no, it wasn't. It was a beans. Okay, which draws us into.
Ooh, try
There
it
you
with
go.
St. Catherine. How much does this thing cost in the hardcast? I think it's
5.
6. Is
5.
it 5?
What 4
Okay, 5.
colors? 1 white. I guess
I
if
know
you're playing. Sorry, go on.
the only time I've ever seen it cast is off of Miracle, so I didn't know how much the hard cast was.
Like, Kyle moves fast, right? And then
Yes.
like everything is quick, and I like that. And then getting the fist bumps, that means leveling up for the team. Oh, Kyle moves really quickly. Yeah, so it's leveling up. So that means we're going to go jump into Dom Harvey versus Chris Smith. Oh, it looks like Dom took it down. Like that pip just got done. Nardu was able to get there. So that team's going to advance again, still be undefeated in this tournament. Nice 4-0 record over 7 rounds. One more win away. You can double ID into that top 8.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're we get to see a lot of good legacy action there, and that was a really fun match. Congratulations to the winners, Dom, Ryan, and who was their third? Dom, Ryan. I forgot already. You're gonna remind me, aren't you?
I haven't got it up in front of me. I just got the deck list, not the players' names. But all 3 of them advanced. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of them. They're one of the
Will
biggest
Kruger.
teams in the room. Oh yeah, Will. How could you
How could
forget Will? It's literally on my shirtlet. It's like, there you go. I mean, it's all cool though, chat. Hope you're appreciating all the work that's put into today's production. If you are, please hit that follow button. The more views on this, the bigger it gets, the bigger the sponsors, the bigger the prize, the bigger production we can bring on for you beautiful people watching here over on Twitchland. Remember, you can watch all these back on the VODs. You can go watch it on the YouTubes. I very much think you should go back and watch the highlight video yesterday of, I think it was round number 4, where we had the top deck lightning bolt. That whole game back to front was amazing. And if you're really into Nadus, you can go watch a lot of Nadu yesterday as well. But we're going to step out. We're going to have a short little break. Turn around, get the feature match sorted, and we'll be back for round number 5 momentarily. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you then.